Wonder why your teenager listens to their coaches but doesn't listen to you? Maybe it's because coaches hold them accountable. Show up on time or get benched. Joining us now to talk about her new book, Coach Parenting, is author Erika Katz. Erika, thanks for being here with us.
Great to be here.
So can you tell me a little bit about the book and the inspiration for the book?
So my son was in the living room and his shoes were there. And I said, can you pick up your shoes? He didn't do it. Again, he didn't do it.
Been there.
Didn't do it. The next day, we're at his varsity basketball game and his coach comes in after the game and says, hey, pick up the balls, the cones, the shoes. Yes, coach, I'm on it. And I turned to the coach, how did you do that? So I started reading coaching books and I said, you know what, I need to start parenting like a coach, not like a mom.
Now, when you talk about using coaches for inspiration, in this book, there's actual coaches' advice and insight, correct?
There are over 20 NFL coaches and players and Hall of Famers, and I chose them because they really had great leadership, and basically being a parent is about being a leader. And the coaches in the book have so many great tips about both coaching and parenting.
Well, so we're in Chicago, so I got to ask you about a former Chicago Bears head coach, Dave Wannstedt. He had some pretty good advice in there. First thing he said was to set expectations and consequences.
So when you set expectations, which a lot of parents do, oftentimes they'll say, well, if you do this, then you're not going to hang out with your friends. The kid doesn't do what they have to do, and then they don't follow through on the consequences. Now, of course, you know, if you're a head football coach, a consequence is a consequence.
Gotta hold them accountable.
And you have to hold them accountable. And that's something that really helped me with parenting my kids.
Well, in playing sports, being a former athlete, I was always told it's important when you succeed to keep doing that, stay consistent. That's also one of the pieces of advice from Coach Wannstedt as well, correct?
He said that when you talk to your kids, you want to give them one message and make sure it's crystal clear so there's no misunderstanding. And you always have to be consistent. So if you say be home at midnight and your kids come home at 12:30, well, you have to ground them for it. And if you don't ground them and you're not being consistent in your messaging,
keep on doing
and you don't give them a curfew the following week, they don't get it. So you really have to be consistent.
All right, now you hear the phrase locker room mentality, and that's usually negative. But Coach Wannstedt said you have to develop or create a locker room, correct?
Well, what he said was that you want to really make sure that your team is bonding. And so whenever he would go on the road, he would try to have them eat team meals together so they could really come together and talk. So I said in the book, create a locker room in your home. But the locker room just means a place to sort of hang out, a no judgment zone where you can talk to your kids and their friends can come over and talk to you and you really get to know them. So when I say create a locker room, it's really just a place where you can talk and they feel comfortable with you.
All right, Erika, time for the drum roll. As I knock down the books. The number one tip.
So my number one tip in the book is to really help your kids feel their best. So like my kids need to straighten their teeth. So instead of those yucky braces, I got them Invisalign clear aligners because that way when they played sports, they wouldn't hurt their gums with the metal brackets. There was no discomfort with the twisting and everything. When they had problems with their skin, I took them to a dermatologist. It's always about coaching confidence and helping them to feel their best.
Really interesting. So instilling confidence, much like coaches did with athletes.
Exactly. So they tell their athletes, we want you to do great, you're going to do great, and they motivate them. We want to do the same thing as parents.
My 10-year-old is going to be benefiting from this one because I am taking this one home. I'm going to learn more about becoming a coach so I can parent the heck out of him. All right. Thank you so much for coming in, Erika.
Thank you so much.
That was fantastic. If you want to get a copy of Erika's book, Coach Parenting, just head to erikakatz.com and get some gems in this thing.